Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the weekly comic book roundup. We've already covered this week's X-Men books, Spider-Man books, and Cosmic Marvel books. Now we're going to be looking at this week's Avengers titles and Miscellaneous Marvel titles, starting off with Falcon and Winter Soldier number 4. Where we left off, our intrepid heroes, as well as their temporary partner, the Natural, have, in part through the Natural, have discovered that an old ally of Bucky's is jockeying to become the new Hydra Supreme. And, well, yeah. So we begin, Veronica, our would-be Hydra Supreme, calling her mom. Kind of say, hey, you're gonna hear a bit. You're gonna hear some things in the near future about me, and I want to give you a heads up. Yes, I'm in charge. I'm taking over Hydra. Yes, that Hydra. So on and so forth. And I mean, her parents were supportive, so I mean, there's that, right? Meanwhile, our heroes are in a cargo jet over Nevada. And Bucky and Falcon explains what it is about that makes Cap so great. Not, he's an all-American, red, white, and blue blood, so on and so forth. No. He's what happens, as Falcon puts it, he's what happens when you have a melting pot of different people, ideas, and cultures. You get greatness. And they're promptly attacked by Veronica's jetpack-wearing Hydra soldiers. Bucky and the Natural managed to get jetpacks, survive leaving the cargo jet without parachutes, including by temporarily borrowing jetpacks along the way. And yeah, they make it to the ground, and there's apparently someone waiting on them. So the three go to a diner where they meet with Veronica. And she explains it. Don't worry. Everyone in the bar is a regular person. This isn't an ambush. I just want to talk. And it turns out that the massacre that got both Falcon and Bucky after Veronica wasn't ordered. That was a personal call of the Natural, who explains that he was getting bored waiting for orders. Before this, Veronica does explain that, honestly, Zemo would be the lesser... Zemo is, playing, death of 1,000 cuts. And, how does exactly she put it? If all of Hydra comes under Zemo's command, the country will die death of 1,000 cuts. Divisions will widen, animosities will fester, no one will trust anyone. As opposed to Veronica, who just wants to blow up a bunch of stuff. And she promises that innocent people won't be targeted. But yeah, that was another thing about the Natural and his decision to kill everyone. Apparently everyone had been telling him he'd be a brilliant killer, and he wanted to see if they were right. Turns out they were. And so she tells it, and so now this time she tells him, yes, you get to kill Bucky the Winter Soldier. No mercy. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Iron Man number 2. Where we left off, Tony Stark, back from the dead, has left Stark Industries and is trying to find his place in the world. This led to him and former teammate Hellcat fighting off his old villain Unicorn. During the fight, actually slightly after the fight, Tony was hit by a sudden blast of energy which destroyed the item that Unicorn was trying to steal, a Gutenberg Bible. So, we begin approximately a year ago. We learned that one of the guests at a recent party that Tony had in issue 1 is in fact Korvac, put into a cybernetic amalgamation, a cybernetically amalgamated body. So Korvac is a long-standing Avengers foe with who's a cosmic powerhouse, simply put. And he's supposed to be part of a group known as the Enclave, which actually Unicorn is part of. And Korvac tells the scientists who created him that they can have their Enclave. He has bigger plans, and he has to begin immediately. In the present, Iron Man's in a boxing ring, fighting the Absorbing Man. After thinking for a moment, he realizes that, we went for an arcade, trapped in Murder World, something private pay-per-view broadcast, and it turns out that Absorbing Man can not only absorb the strength of his suit, but also the power source. So Iron Man and Absorbing Man duke it out, and Absorbing Man's kind of just like, hey man, I really don't want to fight you, but if beating you down gets him back home to the wife, hey, I'm here for it. However, during the fight, Iron Man unmasks the ref, revealing the ref to be none other than Arcade. Presumably, this happens after the events of the current Black Widow series, I guess. The next day is Brownstone. He's discussing the fight with Hellcat, who's and apparently she's trying to help him through some meditation techniques, but he's always thinking. And she explains, the thing with the thinking is, when you find your mind wandering, just label it as thinking and go back to the breathing. Yeah, it doesn't work for Tony because he keeps on thinking. Then gets a call that apparently some Stark pharmaceutical scientists have been kidnapped by Cardiac. For those unaware, Cardiac is I guess he's best described as a healthcare vigilante, former doctor, basically sticks up for those who are victimized by the healthcare system. So Tony goes to save them, fights off Cardiac, but turns out they are suffocating in a giant orb. So he's got to figure out how to get into the orb and save her. So he basically gets himself a flying start and slams into the orb. Giving himself 17 bone fractures, punctured left lung, and an irregular heartbeat in the process. Cardiac is arrested and states to the press that, Tony Stark and he may have both once lost their hearts. Only one of them still has a soul. And Tony kind of states he's trying to, it does kind of come off to Hellcat. It kind of seems like he's trying to, die spectacularly. We also find out that Tony Stark doesn't have health insurance because he's uninsurable. And Hellcat does as he's ever had to look past his own privilege, and he says, he's devoted his entire life to helping people. He's Iron Man. To which he counters, he's given himself more power than he already had. He enjoyed more legal leeway than most people on Earth, and answers to absolutely no one. And so he ends up saying, what if he died doing something heroic? And so she says, so you've been trying to spectacularly kill yourself to replace all the moral complexities of your sort of reputation to one commemorative memorial statue in Central Park. However, then it turns out that Unicorn, who's in the same hospital, has escaped the behavior award. When Hellcat goes to stop him, though, he knocks her down in one punch, and somebody says that he's a servant of the one true God, and the one true God calls him in the electricity, and that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book, Spider-Woman number 5, or as you can tell from the cover, Legacy issue number 100. That's right, it took well over 40 years for us to get 100 issues of a Spider-Woman solo book. Where we left off, Spider-Woman discovered that her current employer is actually her brother. Her mother isn't dead, but faked her death and whatnot. With the aid of the High Evolutionary, and somehow Octavia Vermis isn't dead either. And when Vermis attacks the High Evolutionary Citadel on Mount Wundagore, during the battle, Jessica learns just how much her mother truly cares about her when her mother basically throws Jessica into the line of fire. But Michael, Jess's brother, does, dive in to help out, to help protect Jess. And Miriam, Jess and Michael's mother, begins deteriorating and just goes off about how Jess's father turned Jess into a monster for Hydra, and how disappointed she was when Jess did remain with Hydra for waking up. And then the fight between the two of them start duking out when Octavia Vermis joins in. Making it a bit of a three-way fight. However, and it seems Vermis is able to get the research she's there for. Michael tries to stop Miriam. And, but Octavia has managed to capture Rebecca and holds her captive. But Miriam suggests that Jessica go. She's going to destroy the lab. With Vermis inside of it as well. It's revealed, though, that, Miriam, it was a clone of Miriam Drew. The real Miriam Drew was killed by Hydra. And in fact, Michael was just behind cloning her. And so, they fly back towards civilization. And we get a bit of a backup story. Basically going over her origins and what she's currently going through. She's keeping the costume. Looking for the High Evolutionary, and she does have a lead. Talking to her son and her baby daddy. And she then goes to ask a friend for help. What friend is she asking for help? Carol Danvers. Apparently, Jess needs to go into space. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book, Werewolf by Night, #1. So, Werewolf by Night, way back in the 70s, I want to say. The original Werewolf by Night, Jack Russell debuted. Honestly, there's really only a handful there's only one reason I really care about the original Werewolf by Night title. A certain vigilante with a lunar theme first appeared in the pages of Werewolf by Night. Yeah, Moon Knight. Anyway, Werewolf by Night would eventually end up joining the Midnight Suns in the 90s. Yeah, Jack Russell's whole shtick, yes, that's actually his name, is that he is a werewolf, but only at night. I don't think he's dependent on full moon, just, but it's nighttime. But yeah. And according to the Ruins of Ravencroft miniseries, potentially speaking, an ancestor of Jack's was briefly worked at Ravencroft Asylum and was taken prisoner and experimented upon by Dr. Nathaniel Essex. Anywho, so the new Werewolf by Night. First off, the first issue actually doesn't have any. We don't have anything to do with Jack Russell. We begin in the Arizona desert on Hopi tribal lands. There's a group of hunters who are trying to hunting rabbits on land, and not doing the best job of it. I mean, seriously, how do you miss a rabbit with a friggin' 50 cal? And young indigenous woman arrives. Kind of basically trying to find a nice way to ask these guys to, stop hunting on tribal lands. Then there's a strange noise, and she says he's here. Who is he? The Werewolf by Night. Who smacks around the hunters, and then seems to go after the girl, but music doesn't seem to calm him down. And he explains that his name is Jake. And if it weren't for his friend Molly and his grandmother, he would probably be like his dad. And his name is Jake, and he's a werewolf by night. In the same, somewhere else in the Arizona desert, a pair of marshals are going through. It does appear they are potentially somewhat affiliated with Cradle, which does kind of get me to thinking, hoping that maybe Jake will end up joining the champions. But they're going after a young kid with powers. This young kid being Pathmind, who is able to download raw data into his mind. And apparently the AI that he has has run the simulations, and claims that he can rule the planet better than the people currently doing so. But Pathmind is subdued by the two marshals, and his powers were turned off. And they get a call about something happening on the Hopi Reservation. Back with Jake and Molly, they're doing some 6 a.m. grocery shopping at Malmart. Molly's making more than a few, has some commentary about everything they see there, and apparently has been trying to get Jake to break into his job at Life Pharmaceuticals for some time, swearing up and down that Life Pharmaceuticals was clearly a cover. And apparently, Jake's grandmother seems to ship Jake and Molly. So, as Jake is as they're both kind of griping about the fact that no one has ever written down some kind of, hey, so you're a werewolf by night. Here are a few things that can help you get through all this. So she does suggest, maybe Jake and Molly should start writing stuff down so that they ever have kids. So the next day at work, like I said, Jake works at Life Pharmaceuticals as a janitor. Turns out he's trying to, he's keeping an eye on some inherited tribal belongings of his grandparents that apparently his father stole and sold off. Oh, he got out of a weekend in Vegas years ago. But one of the supervisors comes in and basically explains there was an accident in one of the labs, and there's some stubborn spots that they need the janitors. They need Jake and one of their janitors to make it look good. They arrive in the lab. There's already guys in hazmat suits cleaning up the mess, and Jake takes a look at the scene with his keener wolf senses and realizes that the stains aren't from a chemical spill. There's a weird residue, like something bled or oozed. Hard to tell. There's a smell that hits his nose, makes him taste pennies in the back of his throat. Kind of a burning feeling. He can taste the death in the room. And he hears voices from behind the observation window talking about another shipment of subjects coming in that night, and they'll get it right this time. One of the voices seems to be the boss, a voice he hasn't heard before. He's pissed. That nagging feeling that something is off comes back louder than before. And he thinks that, maybe he actually can do something. And we get a tribal story about the two wolves. The little girl had two wolves, one red, one gray. The red wolf only wanted her love with kisses and hugs, but the mean gray wolf wanted her anger and hate, begged her for it so he could get big and strong. By the time the girl became a woman, she had a beautiful, loving mother red wolf, one who gave her back kindness and kisses all the while her mean gray wolf was starved from his anger and hatred, his love of violence and suffering. And so, that night, Jake gets ready to prevent the test subjects from arriving at Life Pharmaceuticals. Turns out it's missing locals from around the reservation. But there are other creatures working security. A cybernetically augmented werewolf, what looks to be a cybernetically augmented werebird, and a cybernetically augmented giant bug thing. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Maestro number 3. Where we left off, Hulk in his travels heard about the ruler of one of the ancient cities, a man calling himself the Maestro. And he went to meet this Maestro and he discovered that it was none other than Hercules, the Prince of Power, the son of Zeus. Founding champion of the original champion, the LA champions. Former off and on Avenger. Currently member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, Hercules. And Hercules is just pleased as punch to see Hulk. In fact, even saying that Hulk was always his favorite. And Hulk asks, favorite what? And Hercules smiles and says, sparring partner, before punching Hulk out of the building. The two go blow for blow, and Hercules is just so happy he can actually feel a hit from the Hulk. He's waxed nostalgic for that. And now he since no one could stand against him, he was afraid he'd lost his edge. And now fighting the Hulk, he knows he certainly hasn't. And so Hulk falls into the sewers where he runs into Decord and Piz. Decord tells him that Rick Jones wants to see Hulk. And when Hercules goes to see where the hole where he donked the Hulk, he finds Hulk gone, and he's actually most irritated by that. So Hulk meets up with his old buddy Rick Jones. It does start off as actually a friendly reunion with Hulk saying asking how old he is, and introducing his granddaughter Janice, and verify that that is Hercules, not a Skrull imposter. And he goes on to add that Hercules cares about sex and partying, about living like there's no tomorrow, but the city's full of ordinary people just trying to survive. He doesn't give a crap about them at all. And Hulk drinks a beer and says, ordinary people, huh? Herc doesn't care about him? Why should he? Which, of course, makes Rick quite mad. And he said, okay, the room that they're in is full of trophies that Rick's been maintaining. All the heroes that fought on behalf of ordinary people. Fought against the schemes of villains to rule them. And he reminds them that it was ordinary people that destroyed the world. We have to get a look at more of some of the things. What appears to be Loki's scepter, though that's more from the Avengers movie than anything. Of course, the Surfer surfboard is there. Various others. But Banner says ordinary people that destroyed the world, not the leader. Not Red Skull. None of the despots the heroes fought against. Ordinary people brought it down around their own bloody ears. And Hulk really doesn't care if Hercules cares or not about them. In fact, he even says that if Hercules had any brains at all, he'd lay waste to the ordinary people. Just mow them down en masse. And he even says, give me a good reason why anyone should care about ordinary people. And Rick says, because Betty was one, and Marlo, and him. And once upon a time, so was Bruce. Hulk leaves saying, though, they were sheep. That's all they are, that's all they're good for. They should be ruled with an iron hand. Use to form an army that can bring unity to the world. And Rick asks, okay, well, under whose rule will we be under? Yours? And Bruce simply says we could, they could do worse. Though Rick says that Banner sounds a lot like Dr. Doom. And Hulk says maybe Doom was onto something. and says that he needs a lab, so Decord takes him to what's left of Alchemax. And Banner kind of wanders through. Lab rats. And he finds what appear to be a massive stock of clone bodies. Because he knows he's going to be doing it for the next few months. And eventually he returns to the city. And Hulk says that after Hercules has been told the Hulk is there, Hulk is telling the people, I hear you are all ordinary people. Well, I don't believe that. Ordinary is the term assigned to you by those who believe they are better. Ordinary is so they can believe you are not a threat. But Hulk has seen what ordinary people can do. Ordinary people created vaccines to save the lives of millions. Ordinary people took us to the moon. Ordinary people saw not what was, but what could be. Ordinary people made themselves extraordinary because leaders told them where to go and what to do. And he is prepared to do that. There is a world beyond dystopia. He has seen it, strode across it. And now he's ready to rule it. And with the help of the people, they can build the country up and make it greater than it was. And he shows them the dogs of war. An army of them. An entire army. Doing all the fighting for the people. All people need to do is clean up behind him. And everyone's terrified of the dogs of war. So, Hulk sicks them on the people. As Hercules comes in and sees this, he says, now we have a ball game. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Marvel's X, concluding the series. It's meant as a bridge between Marvel's and Earth X. Where we left off, David, the last regular boy on Earth, was under the protection of the Fantastic Four, and Reed Richards, Hank Pym, Tony Stark, Beast, Bruce Banner were all trying to find a way to cure the mutated populace using David's blood. But it just wasn't working. Something wasn't going right. And then the mutated people raided the Baxter building. We began to write up on the Hulk. Back at the NYPD, Cage and Nighthawk arm up and do what they can to stop the attack, the mutated populace that's attacking the Baxter building. And get a play-by-play of what happens in the battle. Iron Man takes a lot of damage. Daredevil's involved, Human Torch, Thing, Giant Man, Beast, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Cap. Mr. Fantastic opens a portal into the Nega Zone, which sucks in a lot of the various people. However, one of the creatures tries to grab David, and Icarus of the Eternals blasts the creature, and then realizes he has to blast the portal, and he does. Well, portal's gone, and so is Icarus. David's told to run and hide, and he does just that. And during everything, Cap's shield rebounds, not back to Cap's hand, but in front of David. And so, David grabs the shield, takes it to Cap as he's run through by the Scorpion Stinger. Bruce Banner turns, and we find out the Hulk did mutate. And we basically into the Earth X Hulk, which is, you have the monstrous Hulk and basically Banner the boy who can see through the Hulk's eyes. And then everything, I think they should calm down, and even the villains are agreeing that, yeah, we need to calm things down. And trying to bring order to the chaos is none other than Norman Osborn. And we learned that Iron Man has been working remotely the whole time, and in fact, apparently he always was. He set up a safe house for everyone to continue the research. They'll find a cure, but apparently David didn't make it. Cap is, of course, kind of heartbroken, saying, you saved me, you got me my shield, and it should have been the other way around. Cap should have saved him. So Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, his daughter May, and Daredevil go to David's grave. Daredevil leaves the glasses there. Then Peter and his daughter go and visit MJ's grave. Luke is trying to rebuild the police force and asks if Iron Fist's down, and Iron Fist says, well, yeah, but only for a little bit, just until the portal to Kunlun opens again. Daredevil, no one really knows what's going on with him. But Nighthawk has a vision, and so he goes to the cemetery and digs up David's grave. David's not dead. Apparently, that's his power. He died. He comes back from the dead. And so as the years pass, David becomes something else. A man without fear, a man who can cheat death. The stunt rider known as Daredevil. Which is actually kind of a surprise. I did not actually see that coming. A big question everyone has had about Earth X since it originally was published was just who is Daredevil of Earth X? Because it's not Matt Murdock. It seems like a cross between Ghost Rider and Daredevil. And watching this Daredevil's show is none other than, of course, Johnny Blaze. And that is where the series concludes. That's it for this video. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.